This is what overthinking really is. Most men think overthinking means they care too much. They'll say things like, I just don't want to mess this up, or I'm scared to lose her. But that's not care. That's control. Overthinking is control addiction, plain and simple. You want to manage, predict, and secure an outcome before it even happens. Because deep down, you're afraid of losing something you never had control over in the first place. And I say this with love, because I've seen it hundreds of times. Men who are strong, intelligent, successful, but still lose their peace because of one woman who doesn't text back fast enough. You start replaying her words in your head. You wonder if you said something wrong. You check her last scene, her stories, her tone. You turn a small silence into a storm inside your mind. And what's really happening is this. You're not analyzing. You're anticipating rejection. You're not being thoughtful. You're trying to feel safe. You're not in love. You're afraid to lose validation. That's what overthinking truly is. It's your nervous system screaming for certainty in a world that was never designed to give you any. Let me tell you something. A woman can sense this. When your energy shifts from relaxed to rigid, from curious to cautious, she feels it. When you pause too long before replying, when your tone changes because her message didn't match your hope, when you hesitate or double text, she can feel the wobble in your energy. And that wobble, that uncertainty, tells her something powerful about you. That you're not rooted. You're not leading the moment anymore. You're trying to manage it. And the truth is, attraction can't breathe in that space. Because a woman doesn't fall for the man who's perfect. She falls for the man who's present. So in this video, I want to show you something that very few people will ever tell you. The real cure to overthinking isn't confidence. It's not saying the right things. And it's not mastering psychology tricks. It's one simple skill. One shift that high-value men master that keeps them calm, certain, and untouchable, no matter how uncertain the woman, the situation, or the outcome becomes. Chapter 2. One skill that ends overthinking. Here's the truth most men never hear. The opposite of overthinking isn't confidence. It's detachment. Let that sink in, because confidence can be faked. You can wear it like cologne. It smells strong for a while, but fades the moment life turns up the heat. But detachment, though, that's real inner power. It's not coldness. It's not, I don't care. It's knowing that you can desire someone deeply without depending on them emotionally. And this is where most men go wrong. You confuse connection with control. You think, if I can just understand her, decode her, or do everything right, then she'll stay. Then she'll choose me. But attraction doesn't work that way. Love isn't earned through perfection. It's created through presence. And presence comes from detachment, the ability to remain centered no matter what she does. When you're detached, you stop reacting to her behavior and start responding from your values. You stop chasing comfort. You start creating it. That's the difference between men who spiral and men who stay still. When she takes hours to text back, the overthinker spirals. What did I do wrong? Is she losing interest? The detached man breathes. He knows her pace doesn't define his worth. He doesn't chase reassurance. He leads with calm, because his peace isn't negotiable. See, overthinking dies in the presence of self-trust. When you trust yourself, you don't need constant certainty. You can live in the unknown without losing your center. That's what women find magnetic. Not arrogance, not indifference, but emotional grounding. A man who can say the wrong thing, laugh it off, and still own the moment, that's a man who's untouchable. Because you can't shake a man who doesn't fear being misunderstood. You can't manipulate someone who isn't chasing outcomes. And you can't control a man who's already at peace with himself. That's detachment, and that's the skill that ends overthinking forever. It's the quiet voice inside that says, I'm happy with or without you. Not because you don't feel, but because you finally learned how to feel without falling apart. And when you reach that level, everything changes. She feels it. Your energy slows down. Your presence deepens. You start to radiate certainty without ever having to prove it. You become the calm she didn't know she was craving. The kind of man who doesn't try to impress. He just is.
Chapter 3: How to Practice This Skill. You see, awareness alone isn't enough. Most people know they're overthinking. They feel the tension in their chest. They hear the noise in their head. They just don't know how to stop. And that's where the real work begins. Not in forcing the thoughts away, but in learning how to relate to them differently. Because overthinking isn't something you fight. It's something you observe. This is where the Stoics were light years ahead of their time. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." But what he meant wasn't don't feel anything. He meant feel, but don't fuse with the feeling. So let's walk through the practice. Step 1, the pause. When a thought starts spiraling, stop chasing it. Don't try to answer it. Don't try to fix it. Just pause. Close your eyes. Breathe in. Breathe out. Ask yourself a simple question. Is this thought helpful or just loud? That one line alone breaks the loop. It tells your brain, we're no longer reacting, we're observing. That's the moment overthinking loses its grip. Step 2, label, don't live. Most people get trapped in thoughts because they become the thought. They say, I'm anxious. Instead, try saying, I'm noticing anxiety. That single shift from identity to observation rewires the brain's relationship with the emotion. You're no longer inside the storm. You're watching it. Marcus Aurelius practiced this every morning. He wrote in his journal not to solve life, but to separate himself from it. He'd write, "You are only an observer of impressions." That's how he trained calmness, not by escaping his thoughts, but by naming them. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, say, I'm noticing the mind trying to control what it can't. And then breathe. Step 3, choose the present moment. Overthinking lives in two places, the past and the future. The cure lives in only one, the present. When you feel your mind wandering into what-ifs, gently anchor yourself. Touch something near you. Feel the temperature of your skin. Notice your breath. It sounds simple, but this is one of the most advanced mental disciplines there is, because you're training your brain to return home, to now. That's where peace always waits. Seneca said, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. He wasn't dismissing pain. He was reminding us that most suffering happens before anything even occurs, in the realm of thought. So practicing presence isn't a spiritual cliché. It's a psychological detox. It's your way of saying, I choose to live where life actually happens. Step 4, detach with compassion. This is where most people get it wrong. They think detachment means not caring. It doesn't. True detachment is love without control. It's allowing people, plans, and outcomes to be what they are without trying to force them to match your script. When you detach, you don't stop feeling. You stop needing the feeling to define you. You stop making everything about me and start seeing things as just what is. That's how the Stoic mind stays calm even when life isn't. Not because it's numb, but because it's centered. So when you catch yourself overthinking a text, a decision, or a future that hasn't even happened, Try whispering this: I release the need to control what's already unfolding. That's not weakness. That's emotional strength in its purest form. Step 5. The nightly reflection. Every evening, take 2 minutes and journal, not about how perfect your day was, but about how aware you were. Ask yourself, where did I catch my mind spiraling today? Where did I pause instead of react? What did I let go of gracefully? Marcus Aurelius did this every night. He called it cleansing the soul. You can do it too, not as a chore, but as an act of peace. Because that's how you train the one skill that ends overthinking. Not by running from your mind, but by meeting it calmly, curiously, and without judgment. You don't have to master this overnight. This skill grows in silence, in awareness, in the gentle moments where you decide to stop forcing control and start trusting yourself. That's where real freedom begins. Chapter 4. The transformation. You know what's interesting? Once you begin practicing this skill, awareness without judgment, detachment without coldness, something subtle starts to happen. The noise in your mind doesn't vanish overnight, but it starts to lose its authority. Your thoughts still visit. They just don't stay long. You begin to notice that peace isn't something you find, it's something you stop disturbing. The inner shift. In the beginning, your mind will fight back. It will say, we can't just sit here. We have to do something. That's the addiction to control, the fear of uncertainty disguised as productivity. But then, you remember what we discussed. You pause, you breathe, you label. You don't chase the thought. You just watch it. And suddenly your brain learns something new. You can experience discomfort without reacting to it. That's the moment your brain starts to heal. Because every time you sit with a thought instead of feeding it, you're retraining your emotional wiring. You're proving to yourself that peace doesn't depend on the world changing, only on your relationship to it. That's how emotional resilience is born. The outer transformation. When the inner world becomes quiet, your outer life changes too. People start noticing that you don't react the way you used to. You don't chase validation. You don't over-explain. You don't replay conversations in your head. Instead, you pause, you listen, you respond when it matters. And that calm energy, that quiet confidence, it radiates. It's magnetic, not because it's loud, but because it's rare. In a world where everyone is frantic, the person who moves slowly, who speaks with intention, who chooses peace over panic, that's the person who stands out. The Stoic calm in modern life. The Stoics weren't just ancient philosophers. They were emotional scientists. They taught what modern psychology now calls cognitive distancing. It's the art of separating what you feel from what you do. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, but his greatest empire was internal. Seneca faced exile and loss, but he called it training for the soul. Epictetus was a slave, yet he said, "You may chain my body, but never my mind." You begin to understand, control was never the goal. Peace was. So when things go wrong now, when someone ghosts you, when plans collapse, when uncertainty knocks, you don't spiral. You still feel, but you also remember, this moment is not my enemy, it's my teacher. And that's when the world stops owning you. The emotional maturity that follows. True emotional maturity is not never feeling pain. It's knowing how to meet it, how to sit with it without losing your center. When you master this one skill, you become harder to manipulate, harder to offend, harder to drain. Not because you've built walls, but because you've built depth. You stop trying to control others, and instead, you start mastering yourself. You stop chasing reassurance and start trusting your intuition. You stop replaying conversations in your head and start returning to presence. And that's when you realize overthinking was never the problem. It was only the symptom. The real problem was self-trust. And the cure has always been returning home to yourself. Living the practice. Now you live differently. You start mornings not by scrolling, but by breathing. You journal not to fix, but to understand. You don't ask, what if? You ask, what now? Your conversations change too. You speak slower. You listen deeper. You stop rushing to fill silence. You